thank you for joining me. So today we've got a bit of a different video for you. We're going to we are looking for a subject and we are looking for a bird. That remains the same. However, this type of bird is not one. It's not one that you see many videos on YouTube, or it's a bit of a tricky subject to find, locate and photograph really, because they're very difficult to get close to, mainly because you can't see them. But with a bit of help from thermal technology, we're going to see if we can find some. And the bird is the woodcock. Now, it's an underrated bird. It's a brown bird, but it's by no means boring. I do a lot of I'm training to be a ringer at the moment, and we get quite a few woodcock on the fields when they're feeding overnight, and in the day they're roosting in woodlands. So I've got a woodland by me just down the road that I've seen woodcock before, so we're going to see if we can search them out today and hopefully get some footage and video and a few nice photos. But it's quite an optimistic one, but I am hopeful because I have seen them down there. It's just whether they're going to let us approach, or whether I even find any today. So yeah, let's get stuck in. Well, that should be pretty good. Now, the woodcock is it's a winter migrant, so it actually comes in the latter part of the year, around October, November, and basically spends all winter, autumn and winter, and a little bit of early spring before it goes off to breed over towards the east, in Eastern Europe, and even northeastern, so Russia, Latvia, places like that. So yeah, very interesting bird. I'm not sure on the number of breeding pairs in the country. No doubt there will be some, but it'll be very low numbers. The majority of them, vast majority, will be heading back to their breeding grounds. So yeah, so we're lucky to have them in the UK. They are a stunning bird if you see them up close, which I've been lucky enough to ring a few, and they are absolutely fantastic, fascinating birds with a very weird eye position, like eyes on the side and very high, and yeah, cracking bird. So yeah, hopefully we can bring you some woodcock action. That would be fantastic. So yeah, we've been to this area before on the channel, but not for quite a while. So I've got quite a few areas that I do split up on the channel and things like that, the feeding area and some of the wooded areas, but this is the area that I know there are woodcock. So there are a lot of farmers' fields that are adjacent to the woodland, and of a night they'll move on to those areas for feeding. So, and that's where we're able to ring and catch them. So yeah, and we put rings on them and we collect data and find information about it. But today we're not doing any ringing. We're going to find some woodcock and hopefully take some photos. But a load of pigeons just went up over there, not sure why. So yeah, anything else that crops up obviously we'll take some images off, but we're going to focus mainly on these woodcock because they're so difficult to spot with the coloration, and hopefully if we can find some, you'll see what I mean, because they are an absolute camouflage genius really. So yeah. So when you're walking through these woodlands, woodcock absolutely love this kind of leaf litter, but they won't be, generally they won't be sitting in the middle of the leaf litter. They'll be sitting more towards the edge of bramble that's lost its leaves or retained partially its leaves, and sometimes they'll be quite tucked away in the dense stuff, but other times they will be generally sitting on the cusp of these areas, but they will, what I seem to find anyway, is that when I come down here and do a bit of a survey for the woodcock, they do typically tend to be in the same kind of areas, to be honest. So they're definitely, whether it's the same birds or not, it'd be very difficult to tell unless you got a ring on them and re-caught them, but they seem to like the same areas. So whether that's just different woodcock all preferring the same kind of area, just because that's hardwired into them, I don't know. It could just be that, or it might just be particular birds returning to the spot. Even year on year they return to specific spots, so that's quite interesting, and would be interesting to get that actually factually kind of checked really, and see if they are the same birds. But that would be a lot of work to get them ringed and re-caught. It would take quite a few years to probably complete that bit of data. So yeah, interesting nonetheless that they may be returning to the exact same woodlands that they do after the breeding season from the previous year and years before. So yeah, so this is the view that you would see through the viewfinder, so you can see the trees there and the leaf litter below, but also you can see the kind of bramble. It's not hugely clear, but when you get dark subjects on there, which I can't find a good example really, could do with a squirrel or something, but you'll see a dark kind of image and a dark figure, and then you can kind of tell what it is. You can kind of guess the shape from the shape on the image really, and on the screen it's pretty clear as long as you're in enough range. So there's nothing immediately around at the moment, but it's just worth going a few feet each time and just scanning the area. But yeah, nothing just yet. You can hear the ringneck parakeets in the background. Seem to be getting quite a few in this area now. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but I'm going to show you on the thermal. Right in the centre of the screen there is actually a woodcock. Now if I just put the thermal in front, you should be able to see. Good example. So there's a woodcock just sitting on the floor, and there's actually looks like there's two quite close to each other. So that's the kind of image you'd expect to see through the thermal if you've seen a woodcock or any other subject that's obviously giving off heat, but just from how stationary that is and the size of it, and it's on the floor, we know that is that's 99% going to be a woodcock. So let's see if we can get some shots off on it. So I've managed to perch myself in a decent spot. Managed to get a few shots off on this woodcock now, and it's so camouflaged. I keep having to use the thermal to reconfirm the position every time I take my eye away from the lens, but I find you have to do a lot of crawling with woodcock to get into the position that you want to get to. Once you're still in that position, you're good to go, and you can spend quite a lot of time taking some images. So the bird is lovely side view on profile,
and I'm down to like 50th, even 30th of a second, and I'm firing a lot of shots off, and I'm banking on 1 or 2 of those shots being pin sharp and just being really still with the hand, and hoping that we can just get one that's sharp enough that'll bring that ISO right down, because at the moment at even 1/20th of a second it's 9000 ISO, which is way too high. So bringing it down to 30 means you can get it down to 2500 ISO, which will make a massive difference on noise. Hopefully we'll see that on the images. In the background, there they are, 2 buzzards just up there. I don't know if you can see. Oh, look at that, wow, 3 buzzards going right overhead. Just, it's really windy, so they're probably loving the wind, to be honest, but you might just be able to see that through there. But I have a feeling that in that there's a conifer just there in the kind of distance. There's a every year there seems to be a nest. Well, it's got to be a nest because there's a big circular bowl, effectively, of branches, and buzzards love, and a lot of birds of prey love to nest in pine trees because structurally they're very sound. They might move a lot in the wind, but they are structurally very sound, and they make the nest quite close to obviously high in the canopy. There's pine trees often do have a high canopy, and that's where the strong branches are, and every year there seems to be a nest in there, and the remains of last year's nest are still there. So this year would be nice to get some images of these buzzards, and maybe even get them down feeding perhaps, or something like that. Within the area that they're obviously nesting, where they're surely going to see some food if you were to put some out, carcasses and things like that, roadkill. So yeah, that might be a little project for the summer, but I would have a bet that would be the family that's been raised in and around that nest. So yeah, cool little moment that was. But it's getting really dingy now with the weather. So just some things to note really with that, with today's kind of session. You probably can't tell on the video, but the light levels are so low, and the Z8 has done an absolute fantastic job. Looking on the back of the camera at the images we have managed to get, they're not too noisy, but shooting at that low shutter speed is just is a real difficult skill. So like I say, just increase that frames per second and shoot as many off as you can really, and you will get some good ones in there, because I feel like that's worked for me today, looking at the back of the camera. So but just this camera as well, working with the high ISO, it does seem to cope really well. Even if the ISO is quite high, I would consider like creeping up to like 6,000, 7,000. That's high to me. I don't like to go much more than that, but this camera can really do well. But I do find you have to have that kind of certain, it does have to be in certain conditions, and I think that would go for any camera. it can only deal with so much noise, and then you've got to rely on a nice background or a nice bokeh that's not too dark, because if you get a kind of dark bokeh or a lot of texture, it can show up the noise a lot more than, say, if you had a paler textured background. But certainly having texture helps, having different colours, all similar shades definitely helps, and especially on the lighter side, because that noise doesn't necessarily show up as easy as it would sound darker shades and more blocky colours rather than having a texture. If you have a texture, it takes the eye off the noise and things like that. And software's pretty good these days that you can do noise reduction, and I don't typically do too much on that side of things and too much editing. I like to keep it pretty natural, so at least I think I do anyway. I don't like to overdo it, because I think it can totally ruin images and that, and everyone's got their own style, and mine is just pretty natural, to be honest, and things like that, trying to see it how I saw it at the time of taking the image. So I can't seem to find any more woodcock in any other different areas, so I think we're probably going to knock it on the head, just because we've had a really good session anyway. We've got probably 2 or 3 different images, and I especially love the one of the bird sitting on the floor with it, and we've got the perfect side view. There's a little bit of foliage in the way and things like that, but I'm not too concerned about it. It's at the end of the day, it's a natural habitat of a woodland woodland wader, which is always strange to say in the woodcock. So yeah, a bird that we don't see very often, so hopefully you've enjoyed having some views of it, because you might not have even known that bird existed, to be honest, if you know, depending on how much birding you've done and things like that. But from a photography standpoint, there might just be some interesting tips there for you to go and find your own woodland and your own little bit of paradise, where you might be able to find in the winter some roosting woodcock. So yeah, hopefully the images have come out good and you've enjoyed them. I'm praying to God that they are good, so yeah, I am hopeful. So with that, thanks for joining me again on this video, and thanks for supporting the channel, everyone who does support the channel, liking and commenting and subscribing, and also on Instagram at Lewis Round Photography. I am active on there now, so head over to Instagram, and yeah, hopefully more to come on the channel. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.